Your brand new iPhone deserves the best protection, and the iLune 3-Pack Screen Protector plus 3-Pack Camera Lens Protector has you covered. Don't take risks with your iPhone. Click the link in the video description to shop now on Amazon.
2 pieces of Brian Kohberger evidence can completely bring down murder trial by casting doubt about guilt, lawyer warns. 2 pieces of evidence that Brian Kohberger's defense team is fighting to include in their case for trial could potentially mislead the jury and cause confusion about the defendant, a legal attorney has warned. New evidence in the quadruple murder case against Kohberger, 30, are coming to light as the high-profile trial is scheduled to begin later this summer in Boise, Idaho. With less than 5 months before opening statements are slated to begin, Kohberger's defense counsel is fighting tooth and nail to convince Judge Stephen Hippler to allow them to present their alternative perpetrators argument at the trial over the deaths of 4 students in their college home. The defense claims that because DNA from 5 different individuals was found on one of the victims, and at the scene, the actual perpetrator may have planted Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath found in one of the bedrooms. Mark James, a Florida-based trial attorney, told the U.S. Sun that the argument by the defense is a stretch. The sheath with his DNA on it is critical. Why would the sheath of a knife that has his DNA be in their place? James, who gained notoriety in 2008 by representing the parents of Casey Anthony in their murder trial, told the U.S. Sun. The defense has got a hard road. There in their position is somebody just set this guy up. But then you got to have a basis. Why would they set them up? Why would they go to that particular individual? They said they set up the accused and left that sheath there. That's a stretch. The touch DNA found on the knife sheath was a 99.98% match to trash Kohberger disposed of at his family's house in Scranton, Pennsylvania. In addition to the knife sheath, investigators recovered 2 blood samples at the off-campus home in Moscow, Idaho, on the morning of November 13, 2022. Blood was found on a handrail inside the home where roommates Madison Mogen, 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Zana Kernadel, 20, and Ethan Chapin, 20, were fatally stabbed to death in November 2022. Moscow investigators recovered more blood on a glove outside the home. The blood samples came from 2 unidentified but different men, not Kohberger's. Recent court filings also showed that DNA evidence from 3 different men was allegedly found under the left fingernails of Mogen. Tests showed a 3-person mixture, and none of the DNA was linked to Kohberger. James told the U.S. Sun those details are critical areas for the defense to include to create reasonable doubt. By showing that other people could have or would have been there, that arguably starts casting doubt on the suspect, the primary suspect, the accused, as to whether it was him who did it, he added. It does bring in an ancillary area, and that is, were there more than one person who was involved in this situation, these horrific murders. James believes the judge may allow the DNA evidence from the blood samples to be present at trial, but questioned the findings collected from Mogen's fingernails. Blood is a critical part of the evidence here. Sadly, it's gruesome, but you had blood splattering throughout the bedrooms of the victims, James said. You have clear DNA. It is going to be your breadcrumbs that are going to lead you to either the person or people that did it, or didn't do it. James called the fingernail DNA unrelated in the case, because the 4 victims were out the night before and in various places. It's entirely possible when you hug somebody, when you give them a light scratch, or when you're just affectionately when you're dancing. And if you're holding hands and in a fun situation, all those things can potentially leave DNA, James said. We don't know if it was fresh skin, which would arguably be much more critical than some shedding, that simply happened because somebody went and got their nails done earlier that day by a nail tech. You could have that person's DNA under your nails, and just because you're going to have some minor shedding. But nevertheless, with the complexity and the technology being what it is today, you could arguably pick up some DNA from some ancillary sources that are completely unrelated. So again, I think that without us knowing more, both sides are going to be making their arguments because obviously the defense wants it in, but the prosecution would say it's irrelevant in material and they wanted out. Nevertheless, Nee James believes state prosecutors have built a strong case to score a conviction despite the murder weapon never being recovered. The state's done a really strong job of making sure that they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's, he said. They've gotten search warrants across the board. It doesn't look like they tripped over themselves. From what I can see, we don't know everything, we're not in the courtroom every day, but from all that I can see is they covered themselves. They got warrants, they got it done properly, they collected the evidence properly. With that said, they even went as far back as getting the search records on the computer, and showing that Amazon purchases were made of the knife, that unique knife, and that sheath. And so those are links which put a case together for the prosecution. I think the prosecution has done its homework. Kohberger was arrested and charged with the murder of the 4 students in early 2023. A judge entered a not guilty plea on Kohberger's behalf during his arraignment in May 2023. His trial is currently scheduled to start in August 2025. On November 13, 2022, a brutal home invasion claimed the lives of 4 University of Idaho students. Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Madison Mogen, 21, Zana Kernadel, 20, and Ethan Chapin, 20, were stabbed to death in their Moscow, Idaho, off-campus home. A 6-week manhunt ensued as cops searched for a suspect. On December 30, 2022, Brian Kohberger, 30, was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania, 2,500 miles away from the crime scene. He was taken into custody and has been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Kohberger, a former criminal justice student at Washington State University, has been linked to the crime scene through phone records, his car's location, and DNA evidence found at the home where the murders took place. The house was demolished in December 2023, despite backlash from the victims' families. Kohberger is being held at Latah County Jail while he awaits trial. On September 9, 2024, an Idaho judge ruled to move the upcoming murder trial out of Moscow after Kohberger's lawyer argued that the town was prejudiced against him. The state Supreme Court will decide the new venue and judge for the trial, which is expected to start in August 2025.